I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Armstrong, and then he will introduce the authors and our special guest this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Welcome to
It's going to prove to be a very, very interesting evening here at Book Soup. Yes, I'm Steve Armstrong, and I edited, I served as the literary content editor for the book, which allowed me to work quite closely with Steve and Courtney as we got the book ready for publication. One of the highlights of my life, honestly. And I've been able to meet all these wonderful people who appeared in the book. For Steve sat in two of the studios that he had in Los Angeles, the Dark Room and Image. So tonight what I'd like us to do is to hear first from Steve about the process that went into putting this book together, and then we'll hear from Courtney, and then we'll turn it over to our stars tonight, our Western stars, and we have about a dozen. Let's introduce our celebrity guests here tonight.
Sure.
Can we do that?
No,
Okay,
you do that.
all right, so first of all we have Jorge Rivero from Rio Lobo was one of his films, okay? And spaghetti westerns actor Robert Woods, okay?
Especially you, Chad.
Okay. And then we have John Savage, one of the deer hunter. Okay, so the hair, and Jeff Kober, right, Walking Dead, and we have Chris Mulkey, Long Riders, and Tom Bauer, who was in the Waltons TV show quite a bit, and hopefully you'll speak to us tonight about the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez. Okay, I thought I saw Jesse Vint. Did I see Jesse? Okay. Oh.
Right next to you.
I'm Darby Hinton. Daniel Boone. Okay. All right, Steve. So just tell us what happened. How did you go from being a person who directed a lot of respectable movies to someone who's doing still photography with actors?
Okay. Most of it is in the book, in my introduction. What had happened was that as I was making movies, I was taking lots of pictures. When I was in Russia and India, I took pictures that I accumulated a lot of negatives. And when I came back to the United States, I determined that I wanted to print these negatives. And in order to print the negatives, I had to build a darkroom. I couldn't do it at home because I had so many negatives that just trying to do it at home would have been impossible. So I built a darkroom, and in order to support the darkroom, I made the darkroom a commercial darkroom. Building a professional darkroom, it attracted a lot of professional people and a lot of curators. And attracting these people, I got involved in working with museum people, curators, and also with people that were interested in very old negatives and very old pictures, and that got me making these pictures, making replicas. I got in trouble making replicas because that's counterfeiting, but I won't go into that.
Okay, so then Steve, will you tell us a little bit, please, about the whole process of working with crew, and then you're doing some pretty fancy.
I'm going to be here for hours.
Okay, then just maybe speak somewhat to the weaponry and the set design very quickly.
I'm going to be here for more hours.
Okay.
But I'll be brief.
Mm-hmm.
Let me back up a little bit. After making these replicas, I decided to make my own old negatives, and to. Is this on? Oh yeah, there we go. And I decided to make what I thought were interesting images for collectors and museums. And in order to do that, I needed somebody to sit for me. After dozens of people that were bad sitters, I decided that the best sitters were actors.
Yeah! Come on!
Because
He said the best, right?
they are the best. Because training allows actors to sit for a long period of time. because we directors have trained them. No, quite frankly, the process that I was using was similar to Edward Sheriff Curtis, who was a great photographer, and I was using a process of a time exposure. And with the time exposure, you had to sit for a number of seconds, which was equal with fast film nowadays to 5 minutes or longer of the old emulsions. These were very special photographs because all the photographs that you see of Abraham Lincoln all the way through the Civil War are very special photographs because the emulsions are thick, slow, and very special in that the portraits are like little motion pictures. They're taken over a period of time in that in the emulsions are thousands or hundreds of images. And in the darkroom, I was able to pull out lots of images of these old photos, whether they be glass negatives or they be images on thick emulsions or thick negatives. And that's what I was doing with actors. And my first actor was R.G. Armstrong, and Elton Jones, and Henry Silver, and people that I had worked with in my movies. They came in, and I experimented with them. They were very helpful because I did things with them that nobody else would allow me to do because they were actors. And as actors, they put up with me because I was telling them to do things as if a director would tell an actor to do something, because I was giving them a storyline. I was giving them a character to develop. And as I started to do this, they not only did cowboys, they did other characters. And I decided that, I didn't decide, actually, R.G. Armstrong decided for me to do a cowboy book or a Western book. You know, when you have a person sit for a portrait, it's good if you just can click the camera and walk away, or click it many times with the digital camera and hope that one of the images are good. That's one way to take a picture. But this technique, in order to capture their soul, so to speak, through their eyes.
For real.
Yeah, I mean, it's very special. I mean, when an actor came in, and I explained the process, and I talked about the character, and I talked about something else, and this and that, the actor looks at me and says, "Oh yeah, right." And the first thing I detect is, "Let me out of here." You know, this guy's nuts. But at the end, I couldn't get rid of the person. You know, after a few hours, you know, it's sort of like, "Are you going to take some more? You know, let's do it again." You know, and I'm drained, and you know, my crew is, you know, at it. But the thing is that we shoot 48 to 72 to that many photographs, and maybe one image is good, maybe two, but no more than that, because that's how the process works. You only get one shot at it. And I send the images to the actor and ask them to pick the one they like. Of course, I know which one I like, and I try to make sure they pick that one.
Steve, tell them how long it takes to develop the picture.
It takes me 6 hours to print the picture. To actually develop the picture, it doesn't take that long because the chemicals are pretty simple. Not simple, but pretty toxic, but it gets done. But to print a picture and to use the process properly, if I explained it, and somebody, I know Jeff Kober is a photographer, and he understands the process and photography, but it takes about 6 hours to get one image down on a piece of paper, and I convert the silver oxide. I turn silver oxide images into silver salt. All those images that I give the actors are silver salt. just like those that you find in caves that last thousands of years. But these images will last a minimum of 150 years.
Only?
I'm sorry?
Only?
Whoa.
Just
Yeah.
150?
150 years because they're silver sold, and sold lasts a long time.
That's great, that's great.
From now, you don't have to worry, it's from now. So.
Yeah.
It'll be gone before the image fades. Don't worry.
Courtney, come and tell us about what you did, because you had the grand opportunity to go and interview many of the people. Not everybody, though, was still alive when you started on the project, right?
Well, when Steve called me up, we had known each other for a very long time, and in fact, remember we were going to do a movie together with Cynthia Rothrock, Chuck Norris, and Christopher Lee called Split Lightning.
Right.
That had gotten pre-sales at the American Film Market and all that stuff, and that didn't happen. But we'd known each other for a very long time, and he called me up about this project, and because I've been doing a lot of the film journalism and stuff. But the thing was, literally, there was no one that Steve had taken a photograph of that I did not know or come to know during the process of the book. Carl Malden had been gone forever. I used to go to Carl's house, and so we talked about all of that. And I knew Denver Pyle, and so it was terrific because it was, for the people that had passed, it was a way to kind of tribute them. And then as the photographic process continued, I was either there on set and we would grab some time together and then follow up on the phone, or else these terrific performers would make themselves available to me, and we would do the interviews. But what I wanted to do was not just, tell me about this film and tell me about that movie, but also to just get, if possible, capture the attitude that they had and their dedication that they had to Westerns and what this project was about. And everybody was absolutely terrific and very forthcoming with it. So it made things very easy for me.
What were the standout anecdotes or memories that you have of the process?
Well, the very first profile that I wrote was of Denver Pyle. And Denver had been gone for a while. Of course, that photograph is absolutely haunting, because Steve, how close to the end for him was that taken? It was like less than a month, right?
He died 2 weeks after.
2 weeks after the picture was taken.
Let me just say one thing real quick.
The process is so weird. When Denver came in with Tippy, his wife, I took 48 shots of him. Every single photograph, his face was white, because he was on chemo, and it didn't register. He had no energy. So the film didn't pick up anything. And I asked Tippy to bring him back, and he agreed. And when he came back, I had a long talk with him, and he was pumped up, I guess, because we talked about it, and we changed a few things, and I got the photo.
Yeah, beautiful photograph too.
But with Denver, doing my research, I did not know his brother had been an animator at Disney. And he worked on Pinocchio and Snow White and Fantasia and everything. So I thought, wow, that's kind of an interesting place to start. And it seems so incongruous given it's Denver Pyle. And so those kinds of, you just kind of go into somebody's background. Also, I was very fortunate. Everybody was so generous. And because of the old movies that I'd made years ago and what have you, very often we had touchstones with common people and what have you, and then we would go. And then other people L.Q. Jones is basically my father, so that was easy. Just, to get him to give me a straight answer. Sometimes it was a little tough, but no, everybody was just so absolutely generous. And when you find kind of that nugget of something unusual or a different kind of experience that they had, often making the Westerns, or like with Chris working with Walter Hill, and then the conversation goes off in an entirely different direction than what you would hope a normal interview would do.
Fantastic. So why don't we maybe turn the focus now to our stars who are with us tonight.
No.
I'm sorry, would you ask me?
Just about Stagecoach. That was a sketch that you did, and
Oh, yeah, that was
a reel.
I was doing comedy, but yeah, that was an old tribute to, well, a bunch of cowboy deal, and a trip to Peckinpah, and I did some kind of slow motion deal in it. So, yeah, it's my wife's calling. They got the empties. Anyway, yeah, that's old, man. That's up to, yeah. What about it?
Well, it's just only that was one of the connections that we found. What else did you do with westerns?
Well, they didn't make them when I started. You know, there was all cop stuff and.
Yeah.
We're just doing silence.
But I got to the pardon?
Just silence, right?
Yeah, I was in silent TV. And, let's see. I did a couple. I did Jeffrey Lewis, and I got to do a kind of a spin-off on the Apple Dumpling Gang, which was really neat, working with Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a great guy, one of the best. And I got to do a Western down in Mexico with the Cisco Kid, kind of a Western. Mm-hmm. And then the Magnificent Seven, and that's all I ever really got to do. But I was more, like I said, they quit making them when I kind of rolled around. This gentleman here.
But yeah, so Jorge Rivero worked with Duke Wayne himself, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us all about Ray Lobo?
I was on a rodeo in Mexico against the United States, and an American guy came down and he said, "Hey, Jorge, some gringos want to talk to you." So I said, "Who?" I didn't speak English at the time, so I went upstairs, and the person said to me, "Hey, you speak English?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "You write very well. I need somebody in my next movie like that." So he said, "Can you fly to Los Angeles?" "Sure." So he flew me back. He put me over there at the Sportsman Lounge. He got me a teacher. And after a teacher, guess who came to do the test with me? John Wayne. He took his hat off and he said, "Hey, I'm John Wayne," like if I didn't know who John Wayne was. So he gave me the hand. He said, "Oh, let's do the part." So we got doing the part, and once I finished, say, "You got the part." And just to be very quick, because everybody has to be interviewed here, he took me to Mexico. We were in Mexico and on a place where they do the diving, and it's a restaurant called La Perla. And in La Perla, we were sitting down. I was sitting with his wife and his son and some people from Paramount. And he went over there and sit by the bar by himself. And an American tourist came. He was kind of drunk and said something to him. Bam! The guy went down and got under our table just like in the movies. He got up and he said, "Pick up that trash." So I want to.
What was your name of the film?
Rio Lobo.
Rio Lobo.
Howard Hawks. All right, will you tell us about yourself? Will you give us the scoop?
Well, one of the first things you're told as an actor is to do less. So working with Steve, you're told to do nothing. For about 12 seconds. Is that the time lapse?
No,
Time? How long?
we're not telling.
Oh, okay.
Actually-
Okay. Well, anyway, it's a long time to do nothing, but you're not really doing nothing. A lot of stuff going through your head, and what comes out that you don't even realize is pretty surprising. But it's quite an experience to do this kind of photography. One of my first jobs out here was a Western with Steve Railsback called Charlie Siringo. We shot down in New Mexico. And the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, which I consider to be a Western classic. Brian Keith told me it was his favorite Western all time. Was the first movie ever made out of the Sundance Institute. Eddie Olmos and Robert M. Young and I met at Sundance the very first year in 1981. Moctezuma Esparza, who was partners with Redford on Milagro Beanfield War, gave us some money and said, "Go do it." We didn't really have a script. We had 40 pages of script, and we would write the scenes for our next day the night before. But we used material from court transcripts, from descendants' testimony, newspaper accounts. We shot in the actual locations where the story took place. So it was very authentic, very close to Jesse's brother Alan, who was on the film.
Yeah, the first film that I did was in Barcelona. Well, I did a film in LA too, but a long time before that. And I did a spaghetti western that is considered by many to be the grandfather of spaghetti westerns. It was before Clint arrived, and it sold to the elusive MGM, and suddenly so did Clint's film, and so did everybody else's film. So Clint became an enormous icon. I got to work in over 50 movies, so as a star, as a lead. So it was good for me, you know. I would have liked to have been Clint. This book is sensational, and I'm honored to even be part of it. So, thank you.
I just mirror what you say. It's an honor to be in the book with all these wonderful people. You know, you said about the great guys or cowboys. Who I am, I grew up doing westerns, everything from Big Valley, Wagon Train. I can't even think all of them. I spent 6 years, not in a cowboy hat, but a coonskin cap. Well, no, it took me almost 3 years to get that coonskin cap on my head. For the first 3 years, they had me in a tricorn. And I kept going, no, come on, I gotta have the coonskin like Pa does, Fess Barker. And then it took me another year after that to get the knife in the boot. And then I was gone. And then unfortunately, Martin Luther King was shot, and they came in and said, no guns, can't point guns at anybody. There's no more bad Indians. There's no more and that kind of kills the, Well, there you go. I know. I should have. So that's me. And once again, with Steve, it was just an honor to do this. The years that you put into it, the love you put into it. I was one of those people shocked when I showed up, because come do the book. And then all of a sudden there's this whole gorgeous set with all the costumes and all the things. And like you said, like a good director, you took us to the side, talked about the character and everything. So I'm going to get out of here because I have to go update my IMDb to where it says I'm in, under skills, all the actors have skills. Now an excellent sitter. That's going to be the top up there. Thank you all for coming. And buy the book.
Okay, so who's up?
Yeah, put him in the hot seat.
Yeah,
Here, in the hot seat.
migrate over.
If I get out of my chair, I'm actually shorter. So Hi.
Hi. Howdy. Hello.
What an honor to be among people I really admire and look up to. And I hope someday I actually can do another cowboy movie. I've been able to work in different countries. Some great films that were American films in Mexico. And I was able to really meet great people in Mexico. I still try to stay in touch with a family that did some other movies to support the filming of stories that weren't about cowboys, but just their lives as families that grew up with horses, and they are horse people, and that's what they do. And I fell in love with, the idea of the spirit of the West, because I was a kid that was in oxygen tents all the time as a kid. I was premature, my poor sister died, we were tiny, too small. I grew a little bit, but the image of the West and stories that I read and things that meant something to me about a spirit that was really big and really important, and stories about the West. And that's what still exists in this country. And I think one of the difficult things is, like even now, I just got off being a cowboy, being a ranch hand, being the father of a soldier who we don't get along well. We're hard to find a community, and it's in movies like we do. You know, that just to see the talent and the organized effort with animals and cameras is not easy, and it's real. It's almost like the real thing, and you can do it over and over again. So you know, the Bill Pullman film I did was based on a former classic, and I can't remember that, but I think I've worked with a few of these gentlemen, and probably too into my own head to even say hi while we're working. But you know, it's a gift to be in a book where I can look at and even read things that I wasn't involved with, and it brings something back to me. So thank you, Steve. I mean, it means a lot. I think I'm gonna cry.
Oh. So, Jeff, do you want to move on to what we're calling the hot seat?
Nicely done.
Okay.
Nicely correct.
Okay. You know, one of my favorite times as an actor was sitting across a campfire from John Savage and watching him tell a story, never the same story. It was all on film. He was supposed to be telling one story, but he told several stories. And they used one of them in the movie. But it was such artistry and such, you're such an amazing actor. And I really enjoyed working with you.
Don't tell the story.
And I'd like to just throw in a plug for my favorite cowboys, which are the Wranglers. What I love about Westerns is you get to ride horses. And I always pretended I knew how to ride horses because I'm from Montana, but I was a dirt farmer. And the Wranglers treated me like I was kind of an asshole because I pretended I knew what I was doing and I didn't. And Jack Lilly and his sons, I worked with them several times, and one time I was trying to get my horse to do something, and I finally just said, if I want to do this, what should I do to the horse? And suddenly I was in, you know, just being who I was, which was not knowing anything, was all they wanted. And they got to be the experts then, and they really were, and they showed me how to do it. It was fantastic. And then, you know, and then another thing about Wranglers is if you lose your hat in a scene, you have to buy them a case of beer. So I had to buy 3 cases one day, and I don't drink myself, but it was worth it. And working on this book and having this photo taken, I do wet plate collodion photography myself, which is tintype, like all the pictures of Lincoln and from the Civil War is that process. And it is taking it's a motion picture that's still, and it is something on the level of quantum physics. I take pictures of people meditating, and there's something that you see there that you don't see if you're just snapping a digital photo. There's something about life being captured in the chemistry that I just absolutely love. And it's the artistry of working in the darkroom and being able to capture what Steve was able to capture in these pictures in this book is really just extraordinary. And I think it's a book that's going to be around for a very, very, very long time. I'm just honored to be a part of it and up here with so many of my heroes. And thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I'm batting almost cleanup. Hi, I'm Chris. Yeah, we were doing Broken Trail, and one of the 2 films I did with Walter Hill. And if you lost your hat, you owe him a case of beer, but if you fell off, you owe everybody a bottle of whiskey. So it's important to stay on the horse. But my first, it's great to be here, and what I love about working in Hollywood all these years is, man, what a group of people. It's just fantastic. I mean, the stories that you share, and you see friends, and it's kind of a dreamy thing to be, you know, fast forward 45 years and having done a shitload of movies. But I did 2 with Walter Hill. I did Long Riders, and then I went back with Bobby Duvall and did Broken Trail, and that was great. And the rule
for me in Hollywood is always do the horse movie. So no matter what, you know, it doesn't matter what you're getting paid or where you're going to shoot it. And what the story is, if there's horses involved, always do the horse movie. That's just it. And don't fall off. Hang on, just hang on. It'll be okay. Just sit there. Just sit there. But sitting and being photographed by you was a surprise, because I thought, well, I'll just go down there to wherever you shot it at with the Hostess Cupcake Factory, and I walk in this place and it's like I'm in a bordello, a Western bordello. I don't even know. And then I figured, well, we'll just knock this thing out. I said, I'll be back for lunch, baby. And it's I stayed. I think I stayed till dinner time. They had Chris, we're gonna eat now. You have to leave, you know. But it was really interesting. So it's great to be in this book and see all the great photos. I like my photo. I like the one you sent me. It was fantastic. Does anybody want to ask me a question? I just like this.
No.
This is great. Oh yeah, good. Oh man.
How old am I?
Oh, I'm 71. I'll be 72 in May.
You don't look at there.
Yeah, God bless you. I know. I'm hanging out with my nails. What?
You look really good. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not the acid, but the acid helped.
What got you started in acting?
Say what?
What got you started in acting?
Oh, watching the Cisco Kid on TV and all those old westerns, you know, back in the day, you know. So I lived in Iowa. I lived in a farm town in Iowa, and we rode horses started riding when I was 9, and I mean, it's just, you know. So I was in that with the Cisco Kid. I liked him a lot. Roy Rogers, I liked him, and Roy didn't, but who was the guy? Gene Autry sang, right? Yeah, I dug him because I play guitar.
Roy
so
sang a little too.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, with Dale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we always go, oh God, he's gonna kiss her now, right? So yeah, she was hot though. You know? And I like Sky King too. Sky King was really cool. Yeah, with his niece Penny. Not really his niece, but anyway. Who did I study with? Well, you know, I studied with David Proval, and then Tom and I studied, and I went to the University of Minnesota and Boston University, and you know. But as Pepe Cerna said, he said, Chris, where did you go to school? And I said, I went to Boston University and University of Minnesota, and he said, you know where I went to school? I said, no, Pepe, where'd you go to school? He said, I went to the School of Residuals. So yeah, Pepe was cool. But yeah, so, and here we are. But I'm going to pass this thing off. Big love to all you guys for coming out tonight. Buy a book and let's make more westerns.
Okay, here's Jesse Vint.
Animation.
Okay. Hello, folks. I'm Jesse Vint. What do you do when you're a juvenile delinquent in Tulsa, Oklahoma? You go to California and you become a Western actor because you can get away with it there, and eventually you go from being a juvenile delinquent to a white-haired, cantankerous geezer, which is where I am today. But I had the greatest times doing Westerns because there's a lot of characters that growing up that I became familiar with, and I had the chance to actually play. One was a character named Tulsa Jack, where I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he's a gunfighter that was killed in 1895 right outside of Oklahoma City. And playing that guy in a Maverick was a great time. It was a lot of fun. And also Bob Dalton, who was also from Oklahoma. And he was killed in the Coffeyville. No, actually he was not. He survived it. His 2 brothers were killed in the Coffeyville raid, and I think that was 1895 too. But playing these characters and doing a West Point lieutenant and little big man, and you know, the Custer's Last Stand, all that was very, very exciting. But there's something here. I just want to give you an idea because many of you, you know, have not done some acting. To get with a director who is obsessively a perfectionist is quite the experience, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. Now, Steve Carver, and anybody has sit with him, anybody has sit with Steve in a setting knows what I'm talking about. Vint, move your head a quarter to the edge. Too much, back the other way. Too much, back the other way. And this goes on and on. Don't blink your eyes. Oh, you blinked them again. We're going to have to start all over. But Steve was standing on top of a boulder, and David Carradine and I were racing motorcycles. It was a 1920 cross-country motorcycle race, and there were vintage motorcycles, and I was riding a 1934 Indian Scout that had been tricked out to make it look like a 1920, and his was a 440 Victor BSA. And at this point, I was the world champion, he was the challenger, and he was trying to overtake me. And so Steve is saying, I don't care how fast you're going, I don't care how soft this dirt is, I don't care how squirrely those motorcycles are, you guys are fighting it out here. And so David and I are actually doing this on these motorcycles. We're doing 40 to 50 miles an hour. And I see David, his motorcycle is wobbling. I thought, he's losing it. He's not going to make this turn. And so I drop back a little bit, and sure enough, David Carradine's back wheel goes right past my front wheel, and he hit a ditch, and I just glanced over my shoulder like that, and he was doing a handstand on the handlebars here. And I said, that's the last time I'm going to see David Carradine. And he went into a boulder field. These boulders were the size of Volkswagens. And I said, I'm never going to see this guy again. Oh my God. And I started hallucinating that I was now giving an interview to CBS to the last person that ever saw David Carradine live. When I heard a voice and everybody yelled, and I looked back, and David is walking out of his boulder field. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. But the point of the story is the perfectionist here on my right. Steve Carver. He says, okay guys, that was pretty good. Once again, please. And let's have a little more action here, so that the audience doesn't get bored with you two jokers up there. And anyway, it was great. I owe Steve Carver thanks for that. You know, it was a great experience, and also meeting all the people up here. Folks, I did not know what to do with my life. I was always in trouble, and I was always... and I took an acting class, and I knew that was it. And it was, and I made the right decision, because I got to meet so many interesting people, and a lot of them are up here right now. They're up here today, and that's an example of what you get to meet when you go on a Western set. You're doing a production. It's just the greatest experience in the world, because you're going to meet the most wonderful people that you've ever met. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
What? I've never met a happier spirit bunch than
Well, that's true.
Well, that's because we're out. There's a lot in the house right now.
These guys are loaded with spirit.
Yeah.
These are the people you see up there on screen. They're hard people. They're people right from the soul. They really are.
Let me ask you all, though, what do you think it would take to bring Westerns back?
Westerns are already back. You just don't have. You don't realize that we're living in a shrunken business where Netflix and Amazon own it all. When we had distribution, when we had the real thing, Westerns would never have died, because Westerns are always popular. Whether you like it or not, everybody's, oh, you can't do a Western. That's not true. If you do a Western and keep it with a reasonable budget, you can really do a Western. You can do
So support the independent producers and go out and get the Marshall. Available on Amazon, Walmart. One L. Or find the 2L box and keep it as a collector's item.
This is, the subject of the death of the Western, which is kind of hot button in this group, as you can imagine. Okay. This whole deal about the major studios kind of backing off, and that's true, because of course they're always looking at superhero movies and all the rest of it. However, the cable commitment to Westerns right now is enormous. I just did a piece with the author C.J. Box, if anybody knows who that is. ABC starts shooting a pilot, The Big Sky, from his modern Western novels on Monday. They gave it a 2-year no pilot commitment. That is a lot of money committed to a Western. And his Joe Pickett novels have just been picked up for a guarantee of 45 episodes from the Paramount Network. That's a lot of money to spend, and these are modern day westerns. This is Longmire time.
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is a huge success for the Paramount Network. And so every time, and then we get something that comes out and it hits in the theater, and suddenly and very often, look how many westerns, everybody kind of forgets this, that the best pictures of the year in the last 12 years, we've had 3 were westerns.
Yep.
So all of the doomsaying and all the stuff you read on Yahoo, screw it. It's wrong. It is not accurate.
The internet's not accurate?
Believe it or not.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so no, the genre is strong. It's just being delivered in different places than it used to be. So
Well, the hierarchy is also.
the hierarchy is different. But yeah, and of course the signature stars that we think of in the classic westerns, of course now it's different actors. But that's fine, but westerns are there. They are absolutely there. And so yeah, pay no attention to Yahoo. Okay, there we go. Speech over.
So you're not going to say the Lone Ranger was the death of Cowboy?
Oh no, that's a 3-bottle conversation.
We have another opportunity here to talk to the stars and to the creators of the book. We're going to head to the back. We have a big counter set up with books to, if you have your copies, to get them signed. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. The Book Soup, here in West Hollywood, and meeting our stars and creators.